So hello friends, today we are going to discuss about present simple tense and this is my video in English. Last time I had made the video in Hindi. So as I told you that I will make one video in English, this is my video in English. So first of all, I would like to tell you about present tense. Okay. So what is a time? I just want to ask, what is a time? So time means present tense, past tense, and future tense. There are only three types of time, right? Now, although I'm focusing on the present simple in this video, but still I want to give you a little overview about present continuous or present progressive so that you understand the difference between the two. Okay, so that's very important to tell you the difference between present simple and present continuous because many people get confused between these two. Many people think that present continuous is present simple. So I want to make it clear that what is the difference. So in present simple, we would say, I work. And in present continuous, we will say, I am working, right? So what's the difference? What's the difference between these two sentences? Is there any difference? Yes, there is a difference. So let me tell you the difference. Okay. So present continuous means something which is happening now or something which is temporary. For example, what do you mean? What do I mean by that? Like I'm teaching now, but after some time, I will not be teaching, right? So this is a temporary thing. So all these things are happening now, okay? So when we are saying that, I'm saying I'm using present continuous tense. But when I say I work, that is in general. For example, I may not be working at this moment, but I work somewhere. I go for a job, I go to the office, okay? And I go somewhere, and that is a permanent thing. That is not a temporary thing. So, present simple is something that's more or less permanent. For example, if you have a job, of course, no job or thing in life is necessarily permanent. So, what does permanent mean? It means that it lasts all the time, right? Because you're not changing the job every day. You're not going here and there and changing your job every day, right? So, for example, I say I work at the bank. So I'm not changing my job from one bank to the other bank. So that is permanent. Okay. But I'm working would just be right now. If I'm saying I'm working, that means I'm working right now. After some time, I will not work. So temporary means for a short period of time. Okay. This is just general. Okay. So present continuous or present progressive is temporary and present simple is permanent, right? So now I hope you understood what is the difference between the two. So let's talk about present simple now, that how does it actually work? Okay. So here you can see there are subjects I, you, we, they, right? And with that we have used the verb work. So I work, you work, we work, they work, she work, it works, right? So like that it goes. That means the work is permanent. We are not changing the work. It is permanent, not temporary. So now we will discuss when do we use it. Okay. So there are different 5 situations in which we can use simple present tense. First of all, we can use the present simple tense to talk about things, right, which are permanent. For example, I live in New Delhi, right? So I'm not changing my city daily. I'm in that city there for some time, right? So So it's a permanent situation because it is true for me, right? And it's completely true always. So I live in New York. He works at a bank. We work at a bank. We work at supermarket. He works at supermarket. All this is permanent, right? Because the person is not changing a job. So we use this for permanent situations. What do we use for permanent situations? Simple present tense, right? So whenever you're trying to learn a tense, you can just think of an example which is permanent, right? Then suddenly it will click. You can just think whether it is permanent or whether it is temporary. If it's permanent, if the answer is permanent, then that means it is simple present tense, right? Now let's look at another example. Another example is I wake up at 6 a.m. I go to sleep at 10 p.m. So in these examples, we are talking about a regular activity, okay? Like we are talking about a routine. So whenever we talk about a routine, that means we are talking about present simple tense, right? Now, in another example, in present simple tense, we talk about facts. For example, the sun rises in the east. Okay, so this is a fact. The sun always rises in the east, right? Sun will never rise from the west. So it's a fact and it's a decided fact. It's just true. Okay, so we could also say the sun sets in the west. Okay, that is also true. Okay, next we will talk about our schedules, right? Now, whenever we talk about the schedules, that is also a present simple tense. Schedule tells us when something is going to happen, right? And a regularly scheduled event, for example, a regularly scheduled event. Okay, so for example, we could say our class starts at 7 a.m., 9 a.m., 8 a.m. Okay, so why are we using present simple tense? Because it is permanent. It's kind of a routine. It's a schedule, right? A flight leaves at noon. So not just this time, but the flight always leaves at noon. Train always leaves at noon, right? So this is present simple tense because this is permanent. Anything which is permanent, I told you, will be a present simple tense. When we talk about permanent things, it is present simple tense. Okay. Okay, now let's look at another situation. Okay, that is called adverbs of frequency to describe how often something is happening, right? And these words are shown down here as you can see on my board. But let's look at the first sentence. For example, she always takes the bus, right? So always is a word that tells us how often something happens. Okay. And all of these words are just like that, which I've used in frequency, as you can see down under the board. So always means which we do always, daily, that is 100%. Okay. Never means which is 0%, we never do, right? For example, I never take the bus, right? Or she never takes the bus. Or we could say that she sometimes take the bus. So what do you mean by sometimes? By sometimes you means you take the bus 50%. Sometimes you take, sometimes you don't take. For example, 3 days you go by bus and 3 days you don't go by bus. Okay. Then rarely means you go by bus 10 to 20%. For example, once a week or twice a week, you go by bus, right? So that will be 10 to 20%. Or you go to the park twice in a week, right? So that is rarely. Rarely means something which you do 10 to 20%. Then often often which you do 75%, right? Like in a week, at least 4 times I go to the park, or at least 4 days I take the bus. So that is often. Okay. Almost daily you're doing that thing. That means you're doing that thing 75%, almost daily. Not daily, but almost daily. You're doing that thing 75%. Okay. So remember, never means 0%. Rarely means something which you're doing 10 to 20%. Okay. Sometimes you're doing 50%, half, 50%, half. Often you're doing 75%, and always which you are doing 100% daily. Like you eat food daily. You always eat food, right? So that is 100%. So this is all frequency of adverbs of frequency, right? So I believe you have now understood how many kinds of frequencies are there. Okay. So now let me tell you how do we use present simple tense. So now we will come on that. Okay. Let's see the next slide. So I have divided the board into 3 sections: positive, negative, and question. So we will learn step by step. Okay. So these are the subjects: I, you, we, they. Okay. And we say work. For example, I work. Repeat after me. I work. You work. We work. They work. She work. Sorry, he works. She works. It works. Good. Now look what happens. Okay. Like with I, you, we, and they, we will use work. But when it comes to he, she, and it, we need to add an S. Okay. That's all. So we will say he works, she works, it works. It's not because it's plural. No. But in present simple tense, with he, she, it, we need to add S. Okay. So it will be works, plays. So like that, you will add S. Right. So that's for a positive sentence. Or you can say affirmative sentence. Right. So now let's look at a negative sentence. So what we would say is, I don't work. Okay. If we are shortening it, then we would say, I don't work. Okay. I do not work will change into I don't work. Okay. Then with he and she, as I told you, in positive, we will use S, but in negative, we will use does. Does or does not. Okay. So we will say with I do not work. Okay. But when we will shorten it, we will say don't. Okay. We will just take out the O from not and it will become don't. Okay. So it will be a contraction. Do not, don't. Do not, don't. That's a short form. Okay. Same like don't, does not will become doesn't. Okay. Like don't, when we will contract does not, it will become doesn't. Okay. So let's repeat with me. I don't work. You don't work. We don't work. They don't work. Okay. But with he, she, it is always going to be little different. It will be she doesn't work. He doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay. Now we will come to the question part. So what happens in the questions? In the questions, we will use helping verb do. Okay. And does will go with he, she, and it. All right. So repeat it with me. Do I work? Do you work? Do we work? Do they work? And with he, she, it, we will say does. Does he work? Does she work? Does it work? Like you can say, do you work at the bank? Do you work at the hospital? Okay, so this is how the structure is. Now, sometimes what happens when we ask the question, we just don't start with do or does. Okay, we need to add a question word, right? For example, what are the question words? Who, what, when, where, why, how much, how many, how often. Okay, so these are all called question words. But if you have one of these question words, all you have to do is, it's very easy. You have to just add that question word in front of this structure. For example, where do you work? It is written, do you work? So in front of do, you will put where. You will say, where do you work? When do you work? Why do you work? How do you work? Right? So we are keeping the same structure, but we are just adding the question word in front of that structure, right? For example, where do you live? What do you do? Okay, so just put that question word in the beginning. So very important part is just to remember he works, she works, it works. So this is the only place in the entire board where we are adding an S to the verb itself. Otherwise, we are not adding S anywhere. If you go to the positive section, okay, in the positive section, I'm using he works, she works, it works. So only in positive part, I'm using S. Otherwise, in other things, I'm not using S. In negative also, I'm not using S. In question also, I'm not using S. Negative also, I'm saying I don't work. He doesn't work. Does he work? But with only positive, I am saying he works. She works. It works. Okay, so remember, only with positive in present simple with positive sentences, you will use S. Okay, I'm repeating. In present simple, only with positive sentences, you will use S. But with negative and in question, you will not use S. Okay. Okay. Now look at some common mistakes we do. So first example is we do the mistake in the tenses. For example, I am living in Delhi. Okay. So what is the mistake? I told you. It is present continuous tense. If I am using ing living, that is present continuous tense. I live in Delhi because this is a permanent thing. That is not, I'm not changing Delhi. Okay, I'm not changing and I'm not going from one place to other place. If daily I'm changing the place, then I will say I am living in Delhi. That means I'm living in Delhi now, but after some time I will leave that place. I will no more be in Delhi, right? So this is a permanent thing. That is why we will say I live in Delhi. Okay. The next sentence is verb. Verb mistake we do. We likes to travel. What is the mistake? Can you tell me? Right. We never use S with we. We use S. We add S with he, she, and it. So here they are saying we likes to travel. So with we, it will be like. We like to travel. Then we do the mistake in the form. For example, they doesn't eat vegetables. Do we use does with they? No. We use does with only three things. What is that? Right. He, she, and it. So it will be they don't eat vegetables, right? Then there's a missing word mistake. For example, does you talk to him often? No. Do you talk to him often? Okay. With you, we never use does. With only he, she, it, we use does. So with you, we use do. That is why do you talk to him often, right? Does is wrong. Then what time you finish work? What time do you finish work? Okay, we will say, what time do you finish work? Okay, thank you. If you like this video, that's all for the day. If you like this video and if it is really helpful, then please don't forget to share with your friends, with your family. Okay, and please help them by sharing this video so that they can also understand the tenses in a simple and easy way. Okay, and please don't forget to click the hit button and like button, and please comment on the comment section. Please do comment and tell me so that I can also be inspired and can make more videos for you. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.